So what is your name?
My name is Alison Hannigan McKee.
When were you born?
I was born on Veterans Day, November 11th, 1995.
Where do you live?
I live here in the city in St. Louis, right by SLU.
What was your first reaction to COVID?
Honestly, so I'm a teacher and it was back in March and it was the kiddos were going on spring break and I kind of thought it was just a bad virus going around. I knew it was serious, but it just seemed so distant at the time. So I really had kind of a minimum response to it. And then when we shut down for 2 weeks after that, and then for the rest of the semester, that's when it really hit me that, everything was changing.
How has your reaction changed from then to now?
I am definitely, in the beginning, I was social distancing, wearing a mask, but I am such an advocate for it now. And I, it's, at first we thought it was okay to like see our family and everything. It's been a little while since I've seen mine. When I do see them, it's distance and it's outside, and with winter coming and well, winter being here, usually it's not nice enough for us to join outside together. So yeah, it's changed drastically. It's gotten more intense, it's gotten much worse. And recently my roommate got COVID and it's a really serious case. And now I just want this to be over.
So you mentioned that your roommate got COVID. Have you gotten tested for COVID?
So I haven't yet. I have not shown any symptoms. I have just continued isolating in my apartment. I think that I probably will end up getting tested before I go back into work, just to make sure that I am, completely safe to go into a building where other people are working. Um, but I have not gotten tested yet. I think that's something I'm going to do within the next couple of days. As my roommate she just got herself tested last week.
How was it in the time period where how was it knowing that your a roommate got COVID and that you lived with them?
Um, well, at first it was, I felt bad because she felt sick. She just felt really crummy, and she had a fever, she was achy, everything hurt. So at first, I felt bad for her and I wanted to help her as much as I could. So I was bringing stuff to her door while she stayed isolated in her room because we weren't sure if it was COVID yet. And then it got worse. Just she was in a lot more pain and really exhausted. Her body was just really worn down. And that's when it became really like, okay, like I really, I started disinfecting the house even more than I already was. And I was still symptom free. So we don't know if I had it or not, but we were still practicing as if I didn't have it. And that's really hard in a small 2-bedroom apartment. So, but I felt, as it progressed, as it got worse, she got a really bad cough and that escalated so quickly. Her cough got worse and worse. She was gasping for air, and pretty soon we had her oxygen level measured. The paramedics came to everything, and her oxygen levels were low, and now she's in the hospital. So, you know, just when I found out my roommate had COVID, at first it wasn't the biggest deal. I thought we were both going to be fine, and it's definitely turned out differently.
So how was the experience with the paramedics coming over?
So my roommate's mom had called the paramedics, not my roommate, not me, because her mom was so worried, and I totally get that. It was serious, and I went out to meet them, and Grace was, she was moving really slowly. Grace is my roommate. She was moving really slowly. So I went and met the paramedics, let them in through the gate, and they were really nice. They took this really seriously. They took her O2 stats and everything. And they were nice. They just they told her that her O2 levels weren't low enough where they had to take her to the hospital. It was up to her. And Grace, like I said, she didn't call the ambulance. I didn't call the ambulance. Her mom did. And she felt like that was premature. So Grace was just upset that she had to deal with this whole thing while she felt miserable and she just wanted to be back in bed. And so Grace refused to go to the hospital with the paramedics. So she came back into the apartment and stayed there for the next 24 hours.
So did they just do the same thing when they came back again? Like, who called that time and what happened the second time?
So the second time when Grace did finally go to the hospital, there was actually no paramedics involved. Grace's mom came by to drop off one of those finger monitors where you measure your O2 stats. And I went down to pick it up from her mom, and so Grace called her primary doctor, and they had said, take your O2 stats with that little machine. If it's between such and such numbers, I don't know what the numbers were. I wasn't on the call with the doctor. But if they're in between these certain levels, then you need to go to the hospital. That's the level. And so Grace took her O2 stats, and they were at it was 72 or 76. And normal O2 rates is about 90 in an adult. And so in anyone, I guess. And so Grace's mom, I called her and I was like, hey, her oxygen's low. She's at 70 whatever. And her mom stayed downstairs to wait until we knew what her oxygen levels were. And that was when her mom just said, yeah, that's bad. We're going to go to the hospital. So I went in and knocked on Grace's door. I was like, hey, you're going to the hospital, get your stuff. And then I walked her distanced. I walked her out to the car, and her mom drove her to the hospital.
So are you able to visit her, or is that just kind of completely out of the picture right now?
That is completely out of the question right now. So Grace, like I said, her cough was really bad, and it got to a point where she was gasping for air. And when she was sitting on her bed, just putting her socks on, it sounded like she had just done, 10 suicide sprints. And I mean, she was just so short of breath. And so when she got to the hospital, they checked her out and they did a CT scan of her lungs, and it showed extreme COVID pneumonia. Her lungs were inflamed, there's fluid in them. And so she was immediately rushed to the ICU. And from when she went to the hospital, things just escalated, or really from when she got this cough, things just escalated really quickly. But she's in the ICU, so there are no visitors allowed. And just with COVID going on, people aren't going in to see family members have babies. They're not going in with people to get cancer treatments. You can't go in with someone who's got COVID and visit them.
So I'm trying to. Other than what recently happened, what have you been doing during quarantine?
Well, I've been hiking a lot. I have been exercising outside. Like I said, I live next to SLU, so I go to the track and I exercise over there. Sometimes I'm not super good about it. And I've really taken I've really been taken with writing, and just kind of documenting my own experiences, and just trying to use the time for self-improvement. That's not always the case. I'm also a teacher, so I'm working full-time teaching virtually. So that, you know, that takes up the majority of my time. But activity wise, you know, hiking, I'm outdoors a lot, and but I'm also, you know, at home a lot. So not a lot in between.
So do you have any worries about uh either going back to school, because there are talks about that after Christmas break? And what do you think about like virtual versus in-person learning? And especially since you knew someone like really close to you that got COVID, like what do you think about the whole situation?
So my first priority, my first thought, anytime I think about this, is I want my students to be safe. And you know, I think that when they leave from school each day, when I teach in person, I think that when they go on long breaks, and I think that when they're in school, I want my kids to be safe all the time. And sometimes I can control that safety, and sometimes I can be the one to monitor the students and make sure that they're okay. And then there's times like these where I'm not able to, and that's really hard. And you think that that would make you want to see them in person, right? To protect them and to keep them safe. But that's not what would keep them safe right now. What would keep them safe is keeping them at home with cases rising and just this horrible virus being what it is. And my roommate is healthy, and she is young, and she is in the ICU, and she's in a coma, and she is intubated. And I I don't ever want to think that there could be a student that ends up like that, or a student's family member, or anyone, you know? And I feel like opening the schools is just, I think it's premature. And I understand why there's such a drive for it, why people want it so badly. Parents need to work, you know, everything. But at the same time, first and foremost has to come the student safety, the kids' safety, everyone's safety, the general public safety. And so, us going back after Christmas, especially after what's happened with my roommate, and she's also a teacher, it wasn't her going back to school that caused this, but I can't help but think that it would definitely increase the chances of it happening to someone else I know, if that teaches. And yeah, so I'm personally against the idea of going back after Christmas. I don't really think it should be like a personal thing to feel that way. It's not. It I don't think we should go back. It would not. I don't think it's the right choice for our kids.
One follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
What if, so e even if there were restrictions in place, would you still say no? Like, if there was a mask mandate and if not everyone was allowed to go back to school, would you feel better about that, or would you still say no?
So there are some cases or situations where I could understand having small groups of children that can follow the mask mandate, and uh, can follow the restrictions and social distancing orders. The problem is, and I teach high school. I love our high school students, but you know, on an average day in the hallway or in school or just throughout the day, right, there is so much contact made. And it's not even always intentional. I mean, kids just like bumping into each other in the hallway. We have a big school. We've got a lot of kids. And I know it's a big school and it should be able to accommodate large groups of children, and it can, but not in the way that we need it to for in-person learning. Now, you said, what if we split it up? You know, some do virtual, some do online. I personally think that that is not, I, I think that that's going to create a lot of work and a lot of tasks and challenges for teachers, teachers will do what it takes, but at the same time, I think we have to think about what virtual learning has done to instruction as is, and add in the component of having students in the classroom while teaching online and having to make sure that they're following mandates and wearing their masks all at the same time. I don't know if effective learning would be happening, and we're getting the hold of online learning. So even with those restrictions, I don't think that educationally or safety wise, it's the smartest move for the students. Now, there are some students who, like special education students, I teach special education. There are some special education students who may benefit from coming from school because they've lost routine, they've lost supports, they don't have the same tools at home as they do in school to learn their skills and then mainstream them into real life. For some kids, school is how they learn functional skills that we take for granted, and they need to learn them. So I could see exceptions being made for some students that need in-person learning, need that instruction. But I would say it need to be very limited and, properly protected and properly overseen to make sure that it's a safe option for those students and those teachers.
Um, so, what do you think on how the government has handled the situation and like other businesses have handled COVID-19?
So I think that there could have definitely been more done a lot sooner. And, um, some progress has been made with the public, but politically I was very disappointed in how things were handled. Yeah, there was a lot of opportunities to step up to the plate and deal with a really tough situation. And I don't think that our government did that. And I think that there was this lack of protectiveness over its citizens and over just human life in general. Um, I saw it as an economic decision when it shouldn't have been. So, and then how do I feel about how businesses have handled it? Eh, you know, I get it. Some businesses need, have to be open, and to be open, they need people to come to them. And, I sympathize with that. I truly do. I think that a lot of businesses have taken the initiative to make it as safe as possible within their business for people to be there. But it's still a risk every time you go out, just because you don't know if other people have been social distancing or not. But I think for the most part, as long as there's a mask mandate unless you're eating or drinking or whatever, and you're not, and the tables are socially distanced, or any whatever, it's so you're able to socially distance in that business, then if it can be a safe option and done well, then I'm okay with the businesses being open. But I feel like the government approached a pandemic as a financial decision as opposed to a moral decision, and they didn't do what was right.
Do you think that the change in leadership from the current president to the next president will change anything?
I hope so. um, you know, you you hope that with a new leader comes new policy, new norms, and new law. And just right now, I'm in that state of hope, that it will change. And I have to remind myself that, there are often politicians who say one thing and it happens differently. And, I think my dad always said to me, expect the best, but prepare for the worst. And I think I kind of do that whenever there's a big change happening, or, something like the change of the president. You're putting your faith in another person and you don't even know this person personally, right? So, and they don't know you, they don't know the value of your trust in them. You just hope they know it from the millions upon millions of people that are putting it in that person. But I think that there is going to be kind of a 180 switch here, and a lot of things that have bothered me for the past 4 years, and just and during this pandemic and just everything, I'm hopeful that there will be a new, fresh approach with, backed by science and backed by what's best for the country and what's best for the citizens in the country.
So did two questions. Did you do anything for Thanksgiving? And also, do you have any future plans, like going somewhere over the summer or seeing like family over Christmas break? Like, do you have
Sure.
any future plans?
So on Thanksgiving, I went on a hike with my family. We had we ate at some picnic tables outside. So we each house had their own picnic table, and my parents packed the dinner, or it was really lunch, the lunch in separate bags. So they like put it on the table. Then we went to the table, sat down, and we ate like across from each other at different tables in the park. And that was really pleasant. My dad made turkey burritos and it was awesome. And then we went on our hike. We did this 2-mile loop in Babbler Park. And there was 7 of us, but we were spread out, like, we weren't on top of each other. We just did the hike together and then said bye in the park after, socially distanced, of course. And that was my Thanksgiving. As for future plans, right now, at the beginning of the pandemic, I didn't cancel plans. I waited and hoped for it to all end, and I thought that I was going to be able to do things like travel. I canceled 3 trips at the beginning of this pandemic, and I was really like, oh, it'll be fine by that point. I'll be able to go. I canceled 1, and then I was like, it'll be okay. I canceled a 2nd, and then same thing for the 3rd. So right now, I'm not planning to travel or do big, fun group activities because it's just, we're not there yet. So Christmas, I don't know what we're doing. Something tells me that we're gonna do like a drive-through Christmas type deal. Depends on the weather. If it's like today, then we'll do Christmas outside. Heck, but if it's freezing out, then you have to accommodate differently, and that's just like gonna change so many things. The weather, we're relying on the weather so that we can be outside. Like, it's because that's the only place we can gather. It's crazy. And I can't really imagine what Christmas will look like right now.
All right. Do you have anything else that you feel like needs to be added?
Just that this is a really serious topic. It's a really serious period in time, and we are the ones that, in the end of the day, determine how long this goes on for, how intensely. There are certain things we need to, that are out of our control, such as the vaccine and everything like that, and its effectiveness and all that. But, we can stop people from ending up like my roommate right now, and we can prevent it and we can lessen it. And I think it's sad that it has to happen to someone to make them realize that. And it shouldn't. It should just take it happening to anyone. Um, but it's a dark time, but there's light, that we just have to do what it takes. And that means sacrificing some things for now. But that's really it.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I
Good
hope
luck on
you. Thanks. I hope your roommate feels better.